What's up, Raider Nation? Let's dive into an exciting mock draft recap. Recently, a full 3-round mock draft was hosted where each team was controlled by different analysts. I was on board to make the picks for the Raiders, selecting at spots 6, 37, and 68. While the live stream covered the first 3 rounds, many fans were eager to see a complete draft. So, I went ahead and filled out the rest of the Raiders' selections based on how things played out. If you missed the live stream, don't worry. You can still find the full breakdown in the video description. With the 2025 NFL Draft just around the corner, now's the perfect time to get locked in. There's only 1 week left, and draft buzz is at an all-time high. Now let's talk about how things went down in the Chat Sports mock draft. The top picks included Cam Ward, Travis Hunter, Abdul Carter, Will Campbell, and Tyler Warren. Not too many surprises there. For the Raiders, we selected Ashton Jeanty, a choice made by popular vote from the audience. Personally, I was leaning toward Armin Mayu, but the fan vote made it clear they wanted Jeanty. From picks 9 to 16, names like Shedeur Sanders stood out, drawing a lot of attention. Between picks 17 to 24, the wide receiver run began, with Luther Burden among those taken. That shift made me a bit nervous about what talent might still be available in round 2. As the first round wrapped up, 25 to 32, Kansas City landed a top offensive tackle. Definitely not what Raider fans wanted to see, especially since we'd all prefer to see that O-line struggle a bit. Around this range, Jaden Higgins and Troy Amos, both guys I've highlighted before, were also taken. Back to Ashton Jeanty. I chose him right after Raiders assistant GM John Spytek addressed the media. One thing he said stood out. Why has the NFL stopped valuing running backs? And he's right. Jeanty is arguably the most talented back in this class. His production speaks volumes. 374 carries, 2,612 yards, and 29 touchdowns last season at Boise State. But it's not just the stats. He's got the character and leadership to match. After his pro day, he had meaningful conversations with both spytek and the Raiders' running back coach, McCullough. Considering the current state of the Raiders' RB room, yes, they signed Raheem Mostert, but depth is still a concern. It makes sense to target a dynamic player like Jeanty. If you're using a high draft pick on a running back, you better get someone special. And Jeanty, he fits the bill. Let's take a moment to look at how much of an impact a strong running back can make. Just think about how Saquon Barkley changed the dynamic in Philadelphia. Some believe he played a major role in helping the Eagles push for a Super Bowl. That's exactly why drafting someone like Ashton Jeanty sends a clear message. The Raiders could be leaning into a strong run game this season. So, in the mock draft, Jeanty was our pick. But now it's your turn. Who would you want the Raiders to select at number? Aru? That's the pinned comment in today's video, so scroll down and let me know your take. If I had to choose, it would come down to Armin Mayu or Ashton Jeanty. They're my top 2 options. But let's be real. The Raiders have multiple needs to address. Running back, wide receiver, cornerback, safety, linebacker. That's why I'm also open to the idea of trading back in the draft. We didn't do any trades in this mock, but it's definitely a strategy worth considering in real life. Now let's talk round 2, specifically pick number 37th. I had a few names in mind, but one player stood out, Tyler Booker. The value at that spot was just too good to pass up. Earlier, I mentioned my interest in Armin Mayu, and I also considered players like Tre'Veyon Henderson, who eventually went to the Cowboys at pick 44. Other notable prospects on the board included Donovan Jackson, who surprisingly dropped to pick 48, and wideouts like Xavier Watts, who landed with the Bills at 56. An absolute steal, in my opinion. Siobhan Revel Jr., a familiar name linked to the Raiders during the pre-draft process, went at 57, and Kevin Winston Jr., a safety I really like, was still in play. I'll admit, seeing Jalen Newell go to the Chiefs stung a bit, but hey, that's the draft. Back to Tyler Booker. I know offensive guard isn't the team's biggest need compared to positions like linebacker or safety, but if you're investing in a top-tier running back like Jeanty, then you need to reinforce the offensive line. Booker is a mauler. He's a team captain from Alabama and plays with serious attitude. Just imagine him lined up next to Jackson Powers Johnson, clearing lanes for Jeanty. That's a combo no defense wants to face, especially not in the 4th quarter of a cold December game. According to draft analysts, Booker is the number 2 guard in this class and ranks 26th overall on big boards. He's powerful, tough, and known for his leadership. While he's not the most athletic or quickest lineman, something that showed at the combine, his physical tools more than make up for it. As for the Raiders' left tackle situation, I'm confident they'll get something done with Kolton Miller. The focus right now is clearly on the draft, but that contract talk could heat up once the picks are in. The Raiders are optimistic they'll lock in a deal with Kolton Miller, and if that happens, just imagine the left side of this offensive line. Miller, Tyler Booker, and Jackson Powers-Johnson. That's a powerful trio. With that kind of protection, Geno Smith could have plenty of time to throw, and the ground game would thrive. Behind them, you've got solid depth. Meredith and Alex Kappa are reliable backups, and on the right side, players like DJ Glaze and Dylan Barm help round out the unit. Looking back, I chose Booker over Anid because, after drafting Ashton Jeanty, it made sense to strengthen the offensive line to support the run game. It was all about building a balanced, dangerous offense. Now, let's move into round 3, where I think I landed one of the biggest steals of the entire mock draft, Carson Susinger at pick 68. I honestly couldn't believe he fell that far. If you caught the live draft, you know I was hoping to choose between Susinger and Benjamin Morrison, the talented cornerback from Notre Dame. But Morrison went right before my pick. Still, I was thrilled to land Susinger. This guy racked up 136 tackles and is one of the top linebacker prospects in this year's class, arguably second only to Jihad Campbell. According to Tom Downey's rankings, Susinger was the 47th overall player, and I got him at 68. That's incredible value. Overall, I think the Raiders' mock draft turned out extremely well. We drafted smart, went with the best players available, and focused on guys who love football. Now let's talk about Susinger's scouting profile. He's a bit undersized, sure, but he's fast, instinctive, and great in coverage. He reads plays well and flies to the ball. While he doesn't bring a ton of power, his sideline-to-sideline range fits perfectly in today's NFL. Picture this. Susinger lined up next to Eland and Roberts. It's that classic thunder and lightning combo. Roberts brings the hit stick. Susinger brings the speed. It's a linebacker duo that would thrive in Patrick Graham's defensive system. To recap, my 3 picks in this mock were Ashton Jeanty, RB, Tyler Booker, OG, Carson Susinger, LB. Let me know how you would grade this draft. A, B, C, D, or F. Drop it in the comments. Personally, I'm giving it an A. And sure, I'll admit, I might have leaned even closer to an A+ if the draft had played out a little differently. My dream haul would have been Armin Mayu, Treveon Henderson, and Carson Susinger. But at the end of the day, I'm thrilled with how it went. Jeanty could end up being the highest-graded player out of the entire group. Booker brings toughness and leadership, and pairing him next to JPJ is a major win. And landing Susinger, a high IQ linebacker with strong ties to this team, just ties it all together. All right, so after locking in Carson Susinger, I want to walk you through the rest of my mock draft from Chat Sports. I'll show you how the board played out, who was available, and why I made each pick. First up, I wanted to target a cornerback, but the options were limited. One name that stood out was Jacob Parrish from Kansas State. He's a bit undersized, and I know it sounds like I'm comparing every small corner to Amick Robertson, but the truth is, Parrish brings that same grit and fire. He's aggressive, hungry, and plays with a chip on his shoulder. And let's be honest, one of the Raiders' biggest needs right now is a solid nickel corner. I think Parrish could fill that role, especially under a coach like Pete Carroll, who's known for developing defensive backs. Moving into round 5, pick 143, I went with Jalen Lane. This guy's a speedster and works best as a slot receiver. I hadn't been able to grab a wide receiver earlier in the draft, so Lane filled a big need. If the Raiders go this route, it also suggests they'll need to make a move in free agency. Maybe target someone like Keenan Allen or Tyler Lockett. Lane, in my opinion, is a better pure receiver than Trey Tucker. He's just not quite as explosive. But he runs clean routes and could be a reliable option in the slot. Next, let's go to round 6, pick 180. I took Malachi Moore, a safety out of Alabama. He met with the Raiders at the NFL Combine, and that kind of connection always matters. The team still needs a free safety, and I'm just not sold on Isaiah Pola-Mao being that guy. Don't get me wrong, I like Pola-Mao as a strong safety or a hybrid piece, but if you're telling me the Raiders plan to roll with Jeremy Chin and Pola-Mao as their last line of defense, I'd be a little nervous. Later in round 6, pick 213, I doubled back at cornerback and took Zaw Frazier out of UTSA, another player the Raiders brought in for a top 30 visit. He had 6 interceptions and 9 pass breakups last season. Now, I don't want to drop Tariq Woolen's name lightly, but Frazier kind of gives you a discount version of that Utse upside: raw, athletic, and playmaking potential. If developed right, he could surprise people. Then at pick 215, I went with Nazir Stackhouse, a 6'3", 325-pound nose tackle. This guy is exactly what his name sounds like, a Stackhouse. The Raiders have shown clear interest in beefing up the interior defensive line, and Stackhouse gives them exactly that: size, strength, and gap-plugging ability. And finally, with my last pick in round 7, number 222, I took Jackson Slater, an offensive lineman from a smaller school, but he's got versatility. Another top 30 visit for the Raiders, and I like what he brings as a depth piece. He can play multiple spots, and you always need guys like that on your roster. Now look, when you're picking in round 7, you're just hoping to find a guy who can give you some versatility and maybe outperform expectations. That's what I saw in Jackson Slater. He performed better than expected at the Senior Bowl, and that matters, especially to a team like the Raiders, who value guys that show growth and grit. Again, we're talking about a 7th-round pick, so it's about potential. All right, so just to recap, this was my full mock draft for the Raiders. Here's how the board played out. Round 1, Ashton Jeanty, running back. Round 2, Tyler Booker, offensive guard. Round 3, Carson Susinger, linebacker. Round 4, Jacob Parrish, cornerback. Round 5, Jalen Lane, wide receiver. Round 6, Malachi Moore, round 6, pick 213. Zaw Frazier, CB. Round 6, pick 215. Nazir Stackhouse, NT. Round 7. Jackson Slater, OL. That's 9 total picks. A solid mix of offense and defense. And I tried to hit on both immediate needs and best player available. Now I want to hear from you. How would you grade this draft? Let's talk Raiders football. Your draft opinions matter here.